Hello, my name's Tiffany Elder, and welcome to Rebellious Investor. I want to start by saying excuse me for all the nature sounds. I'm in the backyard today because it's a beautiful day and I love the outdoors, but there are a lot of birds out, so we're just going to welcome them and talk about what we need to talk about. Um, I'm guessing that you're here because you want to see what I have to say about items that can help you with your real estate investing interests. And I hope I don't disappoint. Today, I want to talk to you about being rebellious and how being rebellious can create opportunities and avenues for you that might not otherwise exist. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my path in real estate. I've been full time last 15 years as a real estate investor and broker and licensed general contractor. And when I look back over my career, even going back to my very first job, I realized that I've always been a little bit rebellious. Um, Rebellious in and of itself is not a bad thing. Depending on where you pull your definition from, it essentially means being non-traditional or refusing to accept the normal way of doing things or the normal standards of behavior, if you want to say it that way. To me, that translates to being willing to do things that others won't do in order to have what others won't have, or being willing to blaze your own path, pretty much. So, how does being rebellious apply to my life? I want to share that with you a little bit in hopes that it inspires something in you to do the same in yours. So, let me share my life's journey of rebellion with you really quick, and I look forward to your feedback. Take my first job, for instance. I was 14 years old. School had let out for the year, and I was talking to my friends. Most of them were in summer camp or were going to be chilling with family and friends. I wanted to make my own money. Unfortunately, I was 14, and in my state, I wasn't able to have a job legally, so I asked my parents for an early birthday gift, and they got me a work permit. That allowed me to get a job, and that's where Rebellious Tiff began. My friends were hanging out, going to the beach, catching some sun, enjoying the summer. I was scraping gum off of the bottoms and insides of desks. I was cleaning blinds in my school, like literally slat by slat, cleaning blinds. I was scrubbing the insides of lockers. We were mopping floors. Essentially everything that needed to get done to get the classrooms ready for the fall as part of our summer work crew, that's what I was doing. But that job gave me a taste of independence, and that bit of rebellion, that push for that work permit, gave me that independence, and that's never gone away. My next jobs were in retail sales, men's retail to be exact. And side note for young ladies out there, if the situation is the right situation, I believe this is one of the best jobs that a young woman can have to come into her own and in order to build her confidence in talking to a wide range of people and in talking to men specifically. That job took me through the rest of high school and into college, where I saw Rebellious Act number two, which was my skipping internships every single year in college to keep my sales job. Now, keep in mind, I was in a top four engineering program. My undergrad is in computer science. It's sort of expected that we go out and do an IT centered internship every year. Yeah, no, I was making really good money in sales, and I learned at that time that I valued my time more than would allow me to exchange my time for dollars on a set hourly rate. So I was in sales every summer. My classmates were in internships every summer, and it worked for me. Um, Although some of the internships paid well for engineering, I realized that in commission sales, my efforts essentially gave the output of my check. My pay mirrored my effort. And along the way, I became a top salesperson at the job. Eventually, my boss Mark McDaniel, who is one of the best managers I have ever come across in my life. Mark, if you're out there, thank you for everything you taught me. Um, he told me one day, Tiffany, you know what? I know you're in college, you're only coming in on the weekends. I'm not even going to put you on schedule. Just come in when you want to. When I know you're here, you're going to work. So just come in. So, one, I had a high paying job at that time for commission. Two, I had a job that gave me complete freedom, complete flexibility and schedule. And that's where I learned that freedom of time is really important to me. And that's where I got my mouthpiece from. Mouthpiece, for those of you who don't use that term back home, just means your ability to talk to people, your wit, your ability to have a conversation. Fast forward to college, graduation, my next rebellious act. My undergraduate degree, as I mentioned, was in computer science. I had a couple job offers when I came out. One of them was with a very sought after tech firm, which is where everyone coming out of the top 5 engineering programs were expected to go. The other one was with a Fortune 500 company in the financial services industry. So IT in that company was more of a support role versus being the leading role in that company. And the job in the financial services industry was paying about $10,000 less. At that time, you could have paid me $10,000 and I would have thought I was rich. So taking a job that was $10,000 less was a big difference. But during the interview process, I remember flying out for my second round of interviews at the financial services company, and I learned that that company gave free education for financial services to all of their interested employees. There were a ton of free training opportunities. That appealed to the curious side of me that wanted to know more about money. So, against everyone's advice, I took that job and never looked back. It was one of the best decisions I ever could have made. I spent my lunch breaks at work learning about mutual funds and the stock market and laddering bonds and how do I invest. And here I am, 21 years old, finally with my first real money in hand, and I actually knew what to do with it. And being able to share this knowledge with close friends who are also in their first jobs was a win for me. So being rebellious and choosing my first career move after college put me light years ahead with regard to my understanding of money and how money works. So when I decided to go back for my MBA, I came out of that program, which I promise you is the best MBA program, the most amazing program on the planet. Go Carolina. And again, I was blessed to have multiple job offers, but I wasn't too excited about going back into corporate because at that point I had learned how to run a business, how to start a business, and I had an itch in me that made me want to start something of my own. So I had several conversations with mentors, with my mom, with my dad. My mentor said, Tiff, go for it. My dad was like, well, Tiff, all you have to do is make sure to keep a roof over your head, clothes on your back, food in your mouth. That shouldn't be too hard. Mom, love you, Mom, gave me the side eye and was like, so you're turning down what for what? And yeah, we had a little conversation. Happy Mother's Day, Mommy. I love you. And I ended up doing what Tiff wanted to do anyway and struck out on my own. She had confidence in me that I could be successful. She just didn't want me to frivolously pass up the opportunities that were in hand for the two that were in the bush, you know, as some may say. But I had confidence in myself and I was excited and I figured, let me give it a try. So I started out in real estate investing and I started wholesaling. We will not talk about wholesaling right here, but we will come back to the topic of wholesaling. I dove into real estate a complete novice. I only had a few months of reserves in the bank at that time, so for me it was sink or swim, and you better believe I learned how to swim real fast. I remember the month that I closed my very first deal, I only had half a month's rent in the bank. So if that deal hadn't closed, I was going to be in a very challenging situation, but I knew I was on my right path because everything worked out. So being rebellious in that instance and going against the grain career-wise after grad school put me on a completely different trajectory of entrepreneurship, which is in part why I'm here, in part the reason I'm here talking to you today. So now, again, as an investor, I started out wholesaling. You may be familiar with that term. If not, it's something that we will definitely talk about down the line in future videos. But I became very good at it. I had a solid buyer's list. My pipeline was wide open. I had a good rapport with my clients. Everything was going well. I wanted to make sure that I understood the legalities of real estate in my state, so I decided to take the class to become a realtor, just for informational purposes. Now, every other wholesaler that I knew told me, Tiff, do not become a realtor. It's going to limit what you can do. There are too many disclosure requirements when you have a license. It'll slow you down. Don't do it. I took the class, and after taking the class and passing the class exam, after 60 or 70 hours of class time, my instructor, who knew what my intention was, said, Tiff, you've come this far. Go ahead and take the exam. It made sense to me, and the advice from all the wholesalers didn't at the time. I had to stop and take a look at their businesses, and while they were doing well, things were good, they weren't great. I wanted my business to be great, and the real estate license took it to another level. As a realtor, I had access to information that I didn't have access to before. I had a network of realtors that I could turn to who had deals that they couldn't do anything with. So I was a saving grace for them to send their clients to get problems resolved that they couldn't do. I was doing a lot of short sales and pre-foreclosures back then, before the pre-foreclosure boom hit. So it was perfect timing for me. And I, in essence, became the investor's realtor. A lot of realtors prefer, instead of working with a traditional broker to drive around, look at pretty homes and look at aesthetics and things like that, they want to work with an investor who's going to look at the numbers and help them understand the market and help them understand, the trajectory of where things are going, and a realtor who sits in on city council meetings and understands, the conversations from the planning department, and someone who can just help them to make decisions from an investor standpoint. And that was perfect for me. I love numbers. It fit perfectly with my background in engineering and coming from the financial services industry. It was a perfect fit for me. And it was because I could take advantage of that opportunity, because I had gone against the grain and gotten my real estate brokerage license. So again, rebellious Tiff, and being rebellious set me apart from everyone else and gave me opportunities that others didn't have. It opened up a new door for me. So I hope you're seeing a trend now, because I got a little bit more for you. Eventually, after wholesaling so many good deals to local investors, I realized that I wanted to be the one rehabbing and flipping them myself. So I started hanging on to the deals that I found. I started flipping homes. I happened to come across a general statute in my state, because I read a lot of random stuff. And that general statute said that projects over a certain dollar amount require general contractor oversight. I had a decision to make. Either one, I'm going to hire a licensed general contractor to work with me on my projects, or two, the rebellious route, I'm going to become the general contractor myself. So that's what I did. I became a licensed general contractor. Now it's been 13 years. This is my 13th year as a licensed general contractor, and that allowed me to do some really cool projects and to get some big projects under my belt. And some of the realtors, which was really cool, who started representing the buyers of the homes that I was putting on the market to flip, they started seeing my work, and they spread the word for me. So my general contracting business took on legs of its own, even outside of any of my own efforts. So I feel like I've been talking a lot. I've been sharing a lot with you because I want you to understand my path, and to understand that you don't have to follow the beaten path. I'm realizing that it's a lot, but I look back, and back then it wasn't a lot to me, because I was so excited about finding new paths, and I was so excited about turning no's into yeses, and it just didn't feel like a lot back then. I had a goal. That goal was to be successful in real estate and to do it my way, i.e., to be rebellious with it. And now at this point, the real fun began. As a general contractor and a licensed broker who was actively finding deals and renovating properties and flipping, I started to specialize in historic restoration tax credit projects, which are my heart. I love historic tax credit projects. We will definitely have a series in talking about these because it's something that I feel every real estate investor should have in their back pocket. There are so many benefits. We'll come back to it. But I found that I had a knack for taking properties that others had lost faith in and bringing back their former beauty and bringing them into life and bringing back structures that others said needed to be torn down. I've renovated countless structures that were slated for demo, or properties that others said couldn't be fixed. I intentionally went in and restored them and still own some of them now. I know the families who live in some of them now, and they're just beautiful, beautiful reminders of the craftsmanship that existed way back in the day. I'm going on a tangent, sorry. But I love historic restoration projects. I also worked on a lot of new construction. I did some land development, sprinkled in some single family and multifamily new construction. I was still flipping, but I started to buy and hold. That's another topic that we will talk about for sure, because passive income is a game changer. And that's something that I want everyone to understand if you don't already. My licenses also opened me up to doing construction projects for other clients, as I mentioned, and brokering investment properties for other clients. So again, I became the investor's broker in my area, and I still pretty much am. You know, folks will come to me if they want to learn about it, investing in real estate or expanding their portfolios, or just to get some advice. So back on track. My next act of rebellion was probably during the downturn in 2007, 2008. I'd already been in real estate for a few years. My market was really strong during that upswing. And when things started slowing down, I noticed a lot of my colleagues going out of business in construction. Likewise, a lot of brokers let their licenses go. They went inactive. And it really cleared the playing field. And it forced me to go back to the drawing board to make sure that I could weather the storm. And in the process, I realized I needed to tweak my business model. And against quite a bit of advice that I felt was based in fear at the time, so I took it with a grain of salt. Against that advice, I launched a holding company and started buying like gangbusters. And I remember reading at the time an article, it was an interview with Warren Buffett. Side note, he's one of my favorite mentors. I've never met him. It's on my bucket list, and I will meet him. His advice is golden. And I remember reading that article, and the advice he gave was something along the lines of, be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. And to me, that translated to, okay, slow down, Tiff. Everyone else is running for the hills in real estate. But slow down, take a breath, realize that shelter is a basic human need. Everyone needs a place to stay. If everyone's going this way, how can you win by going that way? And I realized that I could win by snatching up some really good deals at really good prices at that time. Fast forward to today, a lot of the decisions and acquisitions I made back then just have put me in a position that I wouldn't be in otherwise. And being willing to walk in a completely different direction has created opportunities today that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So thanks, Warren. I think I'm almost done. I think. The last act of rebellion that I think I'll share with you is just the fact that I'm sitting here talking to you now. We are presently in the middle of a very strong uptick in our market. It's been that way for the last 2 years, and given the number of people moving to this area, the amount of demand, etc., there doesn't appear to be an end in sight in the short term, but we all know that real estate goes in cycles and all good things come to an end eventually. So right now, most of my colleagues are out there getting as many contracts as they can, doing as many construction projects as they can, and scrambling to make the most of this time because everyone remembers what happened 10 years ago. Something in me right now is more interested in finding a way to share what I've learned over the years with you. Again, this is going in a different direction, opposite the crowd. Uh, I've just seen a lot of real estate investors come and go over the last decade and a half. And from my understanding, it's really been for a couple of reasons, a few reasons. Either one, they fell into the get rich quick and it didn't pan out for them, or they were taught just enough to be dangerous to themselves and it didn't pan out for them, or gosh, they just got in over their heads and they had rose-colored glasses and didn't consider the downside of real estate along with considering the potential upsides. Sorry, my sinuses are acting up a little bit. There are a ton of other potential reasons, but this is why I'm here talking to you, because I love seeing the light bulb go off when someone gets it and when they convince themselves to invest in real estate. I want to be very clear. I am not here to convince you to invest in anything. I started off my investing career as a real estate investor. Since then, I've lent private money, I've invested in startups, of course, I'm in the stock market. There are a ton of avenues for you to invest. I I'm not here to convince you. I just want to connect with you and let you know that it's possible and it's not rocket science. And because I understand the freedom that real estate has given me, and how real estate has created a lifestyle that I enjoy. I don't really require a lot, so that's not really too hard, but I want everyone who wants to experience that to have an opportunity to do so. Like, my hope from these videos is that someone watching this will look at me and say, you know what? If Tiff can do that, so can I. Or I'm hoping that something that I've shared with you connects with you and connects with who you are and helps you to get off the bench and learn what you need to learn and get in the game and start making the changes in your life that can vastly change your future. If you're just willing to do what other people keep telling you you can't do and what other people keep telling you won't work, you can achieve great things. So again, why I chose Rebellious Investor as a moniker, it's because, it's me. And being rebellious means being willing to not follow the beaten path and being willing to do what others say you should not and cannot do. And being willing to live a life that is different from what others expect of you, all the while creating the life of your own dreams because you're living for yourself and for your loved ones. And remember, in order to have those things that others won't have, I think this will be the last time I'll say it, but I say it all the time, you have to be willing to do what others are not willing to do. And that's being rebellious. So, as always, if you have found this helpful or inspirational in any way, please share with your friends and family. Visit us at rebelliousinvestor.com and leave your email address, and I'll be sure to send you updates as more information comes out. Also on Instagram at Rebellious Investor. I'm just glad you stayed with me to the end. I know this was kind of long. Most of the videos that I plan to put up, those topics will be a little more bite-sized, but I will leave it here for now. But I promise I will see you again soon.